Had plenty of trouble against Denver and was blamed for the loss last week in Los Angeles, and did not execute well. Not only 3 interceptions, but he missed Hester on a couple what could have been Raider touchdown passes. At the intermission, Dallas 10, Raiders 3.
We welcome those of you watching the Raiders-Cowboys game, which Dallas leads 10-3 at the half. Mark Wilson with a terrible first 2 quarters. 3 interceptions. He also lost a fumble. Tony Dorsett, a 13-yard scoring run, and in the process, he has moved past O.J. Simpson into 5th place on the all-time rushing list. San Diego pulling a surprise, at least so far, at Denver. In the 3rd, on a pair of Roethlisberger field goals, they lead the Broncos, who were favored by 2 touchdowns, 6-3. The Chargers are 1-8. The Broncos are 8-1. The Giants continue to get brilliant play from Joe Morris, an 18-yard scoring run, 75 yards in the first half alone. They take a 10-0 lead to the 3rd quarter at Philadelphia. The Giants have to win to stay tied with Washington for first place in the NFC East. They'd each be 8-2 if the Giants beat the Eagles today. San Francisco goes to the half at Candlestick with a 23-10 lead over the Cardinals. Joe Montana is back in a big way. He's thrown 2 touchdown passes to Jerry Rice, a 45-yarder and a 41-yarder. Cliff Stout hits J.T. Smith for a 24-yard St. Louis score. The Jets beat Atlanta today, 28-14 in Atlanta. Big day for Ken O'Brien. He threw for 3 touchdowns and in one stretch completed 17 consecutive passes. All 3 touchdown throws came in the 2nd quarter. Al Toon, who leads the NFL with better than 60 receptions, caught this one for a 7-0 lead. Then Wesley Walker caught the next 2. The Jets cruised from there. Their record is 9-1 after the 28-14 win. New England trailed 14-3 at one point in their game against Indianapolis, but eventually dropped the Colts to 0-10 with a 30-21 come-from-behind win at the Hoosier Dome. Let's turn to Ahmad Rashad. New England, with their victory, now trails the Jets by 2 in the AFC East, but it's going to be tough to catch New York.
They are the hottest team in football right now, and you know, the thing that impresses me, and you got to give this to Joe Walton, he's got his team not only improving, but maturing game to game, and that's what you have to do to go all the way in this division. One of my favorite players, Ken O'Brien, I mean, this is a neat story. The guy grew up idolizing Joe Namath, and all of a sudden he's playing like Joe Namath, and if he keeps playing this way, he may be able to do what Namath did for the Jets, and that is take him to the Super Bowl.
All right, the rest of the scores. Mike Tomczak was a quarterback today for the Bears. They win at Tampa Bay, 23-3. Tomczak ran for a 1-yard touchdown in the first quarter, then off a play-action fake, hit Willie Gault with this 37-yarder. The Bears never looked back. Late in the 4th quarter, Doug Flutie actually got in for a few snaps. He attempted 1 pass. It fell incomplete. Good day for Walter Payton, 20 carries, 139 yards. The Saints blanked the Rams at the Superdome. A pair of Morton Anderson field goals in the second half, all the scoring. They hold Eric Dickerson to 57 yards on the ground. 6-0 the final score. Kansas City beats Seattle today, 27-7 on 3 touchdown passes by Bill Kenny, who has now taken over as their starting quarterback from Todd Blackledge. This is an 8-yard slant to Stephon Page, one of the game's better wide receivers. 27-7 as the Chiefs go to 7-3 on the year, and they now trail Denver for the moment by a game and a half in the AFC West. Cincinnati and Houston. Houston snaps their 8-game losing streak with a 32-28 win. At one time in this game, they led 26-0. Denver rallied, came back to within 29-28. I should say Cincinnati rallied, and Houston holds on eventually to win 32-28. Washington beats Green Bay 16-7. Pair of touchdown passes by Jay Schrader, and the Skins are 8-2. The Pack is 1-9. Minnesota wins at Detroit 24-10, the final there. And Buffalo presents Marv Levy with a victory in his debut as their head coach. 16-12 is the final score in Buffalo. Paul, your thoughts on that one?
Well, I just liked the beginning when you talked to Marv Levy about not doing any coaching at all today. He got there Tuesday, and Ahmad Rashad said he can coach under those circumstances. But I think he'll really get into the game plan next week. He just didn't want to come in and disrupt anything. They ended up winning, and the one thing they're going to do with Kelly is not so much worry about throwing the ball way downfield. Let him get the field, roll him out, get him away from that rush.
All right, so Buffalo, by beating Pittsburgh today, brings their record to 3-7, and the Steelers with the loss, also 3-7 so far on the year. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
Monday.
For this segment by Frank DeFord of our staff, Gene Upshaw, who heads the NFL Players Association, and in a moment from California, Dr. Forrest Tennant. who is the NFL's drug advisor. He's employed by the league. If you were with us for the pregame show, you saw Frank DeFord's commentary about the problem of steroids in the National Football League. And Frank, in your opinion, it's more than a minor problem. It may be one that has been overlooked because of all the publicity about cocaine, but it's just as serious.
Yeah, I think its time has probably come. Very interesting interview last week that I read about Harry Usher, the former commissioner of the USFL, who called it an insidious weapon. He said, what we're facing now is players who bulk themselves up with steroids, then take amphetamines and go out on the field, and they become literally carried away, animals in effect. And it's a horrible problem. I think though, we're beginning to address it.
Gene Upshaw, you played with the Raiders. Now you see it from another perspective as the head of the Players Association. How serious is the problem in your view?
Well, it is a problem. It's one in which we have to address. I think it's one in which we'd like to know exactly the health consequences that surround it. In our recent case against the league, we really dwelled a lot on the steroid problem. It is a problem. We have to do something about it, and we want to do something about it.
As long as it were negotiated between the Players Association and management, would your group favor some kind of testing that would include testing for steroids?
Yes, we've always proposed that as any part of any testing program that we might agree to. We feel that we must look at the health and the long-term effects of steroids, and this is just one example of we're willing to do that.
So your only objection, for example, to Commissioner Rozell's recent attempt to institute drug testing was that he did it unilaterally and didn't negotiate it with your association?
Yes, that's correct. We have a collective bargaining agreement. We feel any changes in that agreement must be negotiated with the union, and we will talk about the merits of the program as we enter negotiations next season.
Gene, don't you think there is, too, a difference between cocaine and steroids, one being a so-called recreational drug and the other being a vocational drug that you use specifically to help yourself on the field? There's a great difference, isn't there?
There's a difference. We run into a problem simply because the cocaine is definitely illegal. The steroids is something in which a player can get from a doctor. It's prescribed by a doctor. But I think the players need to know the long-range effects and the health consequences that he faces if he uses them.
And you would acknowledge, too, that an awful lot of players are using them without prescriptions.
Well, I'm sure that there is a black market out there, and I'm sure that if it's something out there, I mean, all of a sudden you see a player leave training camp at 230 pounds. He shows up the next year at 280 pounds overnight. It's definitely a problem.
As a player, did you see it? Did you use them yourself?
No, I never used steroids, and I never really needed them. I was large enough to play the game under my normal circumstances, and I feel that there's no need for them. You have to go with your natural ability. And there are a lot of players out there that are really concerned about that. They think we talk a lot about drug testing, illegal drug testing, and we really need to spend more time talking about the steroid question.
Let's go out to Los Angeles and speak with Dr. Forrest Tennant, who is an expert on the subject of steroids. How pervasive do you think this problem is in the NFL, Dr. Tennant?
There's no question. It's very pervasive, and I certainly agree with Gene. It's an issue that has really come forward, and it's one that is at the top of our agenda as far as priority, because it is a problem. We have to do something about it.
Dr. Tennant, there's a lot of talk that the players, in bulking themselves up, their bodies are in effect getting too big for their bone structure. Do you think there's a lot of truth in that?
No question about this. I personally believe that a great number of injuries and a great number of the real mishaps in the game today are really responsible to steroids. We don't know exactly how many, but we know it's a problem, and we do know that this extra bulk, this extra mass, causes injuries to players.
Dr. Tennant, steroids with a prescription under certain circumstances are legal. Is it possible that there are some circumstances, any at all, where it would be appropriate for a football player to take steroids?
I think that the physicians who deal with football players in the National Football League are in general agreement that it is almost rare, if ever, that we would ever prescribe steroids for legitimate medical purposes to an active football player. In other words, all the steroids that are being taken either by being prescribed by unethical physicians or being taken illegally, and we are totally against them. We've taken a stand against them. They have no place in professional football, essentially.
Outside of the increased injuries because people are getting bigger unnaturally, they're faster, the collisions are more violent, what are the other health consequences of the misuse of steroids?
Well, they are numerous. First off, not only do you have the aggressiveness, but you have all the things that go along with this. You have increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, the long-term effects are serious. Liver tumors, heart disease, testicular atrophy, and the big thing that physicians are worried about today is that we feel a number of these people might develop cancer several years down the line. In other words, the health consequences are extremely serious.
Can you test reliably for steroids use?
Yes, they can be tested for very reliably, except there's a major catch. And that is, the testing process is so lengthy that no one today really has the ability to do mass testing. In other words, we actually wanted to do testing for steroids in August when we tested all 2,800 players, but we simply could not test 2,800 players within 3 weeks.
Dr. Tennant, thank you. Gene Upshaw, is it going to take a Len Bias, a Don Rogers, for the players as a group to apply the kind of peer pressure that will be necessary to help stem the problem?
Well, we're very aware of the problem, and we want to do something about the problem. And that's one issue we're not afraid to face. We understand the consequences, the long-range effects. One of the things that really would disturb me if I was a young player and I was on steroids would be what effect it's going to have as you try to produce a family. I mean, there has to be some long-term effects there also. We got a young group of players that are just starting their families, and I think they have to do something about that.
Our thanks to Gene Upshaw from the Players Association and Frank DeFord, of course. NFL 86 halftime activities will continue in just a moment.
We billboarded this game as two quality teams in a game they could not afford to lose, and yet both teams lost so many scoring opportunities in that first half. 10-3, but it could be 27-17.
Or if the Raiders had converted on a couple of chances they had, they could have had a couple of touchdowns too. Dick, it's one of those what-if games. What if this and what if that? The one thing we can be sure of is that Tony Dorsett had a great first half.
Tony Dorsett had 78 yards rushing and the only touchdown, and this is the touchdown from 13 yards, and typical great quick reacting moves by Dorsett to elude the black shirts of the Raiders and score to give the Cowboys the 10-3 lead. So he had something like 140 yards total offense, and the Raiders had only 80 yards as a team.
Total offense. One thing we'll have to look for, when you work that hard and you're working on a bad knee, it may tend to stiffen up at the halftime. We'll take a quick look at him as he comes out and see how he's doing.
How about Mark Wilson? Do you start him in the second half if you're Tom Flores?
If I have to make the choice, I don't. I know what Wilson can do, and I know what, and I don't know that Mark is going to start. That's Mark from the backside. He's got a sweat outfit on. Plunkett warmed up on the sideline, and Plunkett is still warming up. Wilson put his helmet there by the side of the bench. We may see Jim Plunkett in this second half.
2 touchdowns nullified by penalty scored by Dallas, and that's kept it close 10-3. Wilson had a couple of touchdowns after that just were a little shy in terms of zip, and that may have cost Los Angeles.
It's not easy for Tom Flores as a former quarterback to take a starting quarterback out of the lineup. He's very reluctant to make that choice. So if he's done it, he's had to agonize over it. He may have done that in the dressing room.
Cowboys get the ball first in the second half. Barr skids one down the middle. One of the men in the wedge, Tim Newsome, takes it, and Newsome with good yardage out to the 37, 38-yard line. A look at the official statistics in the first half.
You don't even have to look far to see that it was totally dominated by the numbers, except in the turnover area, where Steve Pallure made enough mistakes to negate some of that big yardage racked up by Tony Dorsett. Time of possession, again, dominant by the Cowboys, but on the scoreboard, they did not get to take advantage of all of those opportunities.
Tom Landry opens with Tim Newsome and Tony Dorsett behind Pallure, and it's Dorsett. Nothing there. Rod Martin, 53, shut the door, and Dorsett has to swallow a loss of a couple.
I think Dorsett felt that Martin was going to be knocked down by Timmy Newsome, and Martin just kind of bounced to the outside and waited for Tony out there and did a good job of driving him to the ground.
Defensively, the Raiders using Howie Long, although he didn't start, and offensively, we'll see whether that Heisman winner back in 1970-71, Jim Plunkett out of Stanford, will be the quarterback in the second half. Wilson has not thrown a warm-up pass. That does not mean he will not be back.
He may feel he's warm, but we'll have to keep an eye on it. Mike Haynes is in the game. Apparently he was just tired earlier and out of the lineup for about 3 weeks, and that hurts your conditioning, but he is back in there.
Well, Steve Pallor, only 53 seconds into the second half, has to call a timeout.
Today's game is brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, Today's Chevrolet, by Federal Express. Why fool around with anyone else? And by Hewlett-Packard, the people who turn your business computing problem into a business computing solution.
In a game packed with turnovers and mistakes, an interception has led to a quick Raider touchdown and a 10-all tie. Robert Levette at the 9. The former Georgia Tech star swished down at the 27-yard line. Tackle made by Fulton Walker.
We've got somebody hurt on the field. Looks like Lyndon King nailed out there by Steve DeOssie, and he's bouncing up there. Let's quickly go and look at that replay. It's a pure man-to-man situation. Dokie Williams in his 5th year will show you some real experience. You see that Everson Walls has his back turned right at the last second. Dokie waited until that ball was there, bumped him a little bit as he put the hands up, and then with Walls out of control, Dokie just carries it into the end zone. But that ball well thrown and thrown behind the receiver, as it must be in that situation. Williams did a fine job, as did Plunkett, to get those points on the board.
Plunkett had 3 touchdown passes and only 1 interception this year. Picks up his 4th. And Dokie Williams, one of the many Williamses in the NFL. There are 22 of them, as there are 22 Johnsons, the most popular name in the league. And Lyndon King helped off.
Little smile, George Anderson, the trainer, but I'm sure King getting a little bit of a backlash to that shot that he put to a Cowboys face earlier. When you take a shot like that, you kind of put a mark on your number, and they remember it. Steve DeOssie remembered and returned the favor to Lyndon King.
A little calling card. Herschel Walker starts the second half, and he's flanked way out to the right. He has 49 catches this year to lead the Cowboys. Right now, he's got single coverage with that great speed, 9.2 speed of his. Instead, up the middle it goes to Dorsett. And he's past the 35-yard line. And what an offensive set that is. When you have Dorsett in the backfield, you can put 2 speed receivers on one side, wide receivers, and then Walker on the right as a flanker. What does a defense do?
I'm glad I'm up here. I'm glad I don't have to answer that question.
Landry doesn't smile very much, but you can get him to smile with one word, and it's right there above 34. Say Walker, and Coach Tom smiles. He knows he has a weapon. He says he has never seen in 30, 40 years of football a man who breaks tackles better, and that includes Jim Brown, than Herschel Walker. Dorsett appears to have the first down out at the 38, 39-yard line. Rod Martin led the defensive charge.
Just a follow-up to that comment, and talking with Coach Hackett about Herschel Walker, he said, you know, we knew he could run. We knew he could break tackles. We knew he could catch the ball. No one told us that he was such a gifted student. No one, he said, I've never seen anyone aside from a quarterback spend as much time and grasp as much of an offense as Herschel Walker has. And he's had to learn like 4 or 5 different positions. They move him from receiver to flanker to the equivalent of an H-back to tight end at sometimes and into the backfield. And he's learned all of those and kept his composure and doesn't blow many assignments in the process. He's a wonderful story, I think.
Well, it goes on to Walker weighs 223 pounds, and they measured his body fat at 1.42. That means that he's got about 3 pounds of fat in that 223.
I couldn't see it. I don't know where it is.
Marathon runners have more fat than that. So he is solid as a rock. First down, Dallas, 10-all. The score, third quarter. Pallor patiently, and now scrambles out of bounds at the 45-yard line. Made 5 yards out of the scramble.
We mentioned that Jim Cooper is in there for Phil Posderick. He's working on Howie Long. Look at that little latch on the throat as he gets it over backwards.
That isn't holding?
Well, it's not if they don't catch you.
Well, that was in the open.
Well, I know I'm away from the field too long, Dick. I can laugh when they're holding those defensive linemen.
That's right. The first 5 years we were together, you wouldn't speak.
No, I couldn't handle that.
Well, let's see what Howie Long does to counter that kind of approach. 2nd and 4. Sherrard in motion. passes to Hill. Great catch. There's a flag down, but that'll be interference anyway.
They're calling Lester Hayes. He knew he was beaten. Lester reached out at the last minute and grabbed the receiver, but tremendous concentration on the part of Tony Hill. It didn't matter as he sucked that football in anyway.
Defensive pass interference, number 37, first down.
A veteran defensive back knows he's beaten. Watch the hand right there. Reaches out, just grabs him, stripped the arm back, and Tony Hill's still able to keep his concentration. That's rather remarkable. Now, he actually dropped the football, though. So if he hadn't interfered, it would have been down.
He's now the #1 receiver in yards all time. He passed to Drew Pearson a couple of games ago, did Tony Hill, and now he's moving in on Pearson's all-time catch mark of 489. Dorsett to the 25 of the Raiders. Van McElroy and Stacy Turan, who are the two safety men and are the two leading tacklers for the Raiders this year, teamed up on the stop. Does that surprise you that the two safety men should lead their team in tackling?
Well, both of these teams ask a great deal of their safeties in relation to the tackling. There you see the numbers for McElroy and Turan. But that is not a great stat. You would expect your linebackers to be your big tacklers in this kind of defense. And when the safeties are making the tackles, that means people are getting into that area to be tackled. Good stat for the safeties, bad stat for the defense.
2nd and 4, Dorsett. Little hesitation move and then dropped by Robinson. Gain of 3 short of the first down as we check other late action in the NFL. Now in the 4th quarter, the two Benerska field goals holding up for San Diego. The Giants apparently, to the dismay of Washington and Dallas fans, leading 17-0, and San Francisco leads 23-10, and Dorsett has not been able to get back on his feet.
Tony Dorsett on the ground, Dick, and they're quickly out to check on him. Don Cochran, the head trainer for the Cowboys, watching him. He may just have had his bell rung or his wind knocked out, but
he did come to a sudden stop.
Looks like he's a bit groggy. Let's take a look at the end of that play. A little draw play, hesitation play. He's hit hard, sandwiched hard. Sean Jones right there, Reggie McKenzie 54, and I think a shoulder to the head there. In closer, you'll see number 54, and you see the pop right there to the head, and Dorsett is up. I think just had his bell rung a little bit on that play.
A little woozy, but able to get off the field under his own power. Yeah, every time something like that happens, I reflect back on my youth listening to Bill Stern, and you say, and so Mr. and Mrs. Dorsett back in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, do not be concerned, your young man is leaving the field under his own power. And so it is with Dorsett.
Well, his parents aren't the only one concerned when you see Tony Dorsett on the ground, let me tell you.
Herschel Walker, what a replacement, in for Dorsett. On 3rd and 1. Walker bowling his way inside the 20 for a first down. McElroy has another tackle.
I asked Dan McElroy, I said, when you've got a shot at Herschel Walker, you try and tackle him high or you try and tackle him low. He said you can't win either way. He said you just grab on and try and keep a hold of him until you get some help.
Walker, who was a brilliant sprinter at Georgia, in fact, in the 60 yards or 60 meters, just almost unbeatable because of his explosive start, and at 220-plus pounds.
Here he's in that little flanker position, now moving back to the halfback position.
Pelluer has a man open, Newsome. They isolated Newsome on linebacker Reggie McKenzie.
Boy, they just continue to make you do things you don't want to do defensively. You don't want to get that isolation, particularly on an inside linebacker. They were able to get it by moving their people around. And there comes Tony Dorsett back onto the field. They say a slight twist to his knee as well as a shot to the head on that last one, but I say when you're hot, you're hot. He wants to get back in there.
We were talking with him yesterday. He said it's behind my knee. Both knees have been dinged, and he said it's just behind one of the knees. It just locks on me now and then. He said, I don't know how to deal with it. I've never been hurt before.
His durability, certainly one of the amazing parts of his career.
10-10 tie. 9 minutes left, third quarter. A game that has featured 9 turnovers. Dorsett ridden out of bounds at the 12 by James Davis. 7 more yards for Dorsett as he approaches the 100-yard mark. In fact, he has it. 102 yards for Dorsett. The Cowboys at home have never lost when Dorsett has rushed for 100 yards. They're 27-0 at home when he's gained the century. 42-3 overall, but never losing at home when Dorsett hits 100.
That's always a bit of a backdoor statistic to me. When you have control of the game, you can run your backs more and more. No question, though, when he's hot, you give him the ball.
He's been the offense today. From the 12. Newsom. Out of bounds at the 3-yard line. Excellent throw by Kalor. Led Newsom perfectly for 9 yards.
When we had a chance to talk to Paul Hackett earlier in the year, we asked the question, how will this offense differ from the traditional offenses of the Cowboy pass? He said one of the things we'll do is throw more often to our backs, swinging out of the backfield. That's what he was talking about.
And they measure he got 10 yards and a 1st and goal at the 3. Newsom and Dorsett. Cosby on the wing. Newsom, a yard at best. Boy, that center of the Raider defense has been tough. And Mitch Willis, who played his college ball in this town at SMU, a key man on the tackle.
Al Levan on the left, and you see 2 men signaling. One of those signals will be live. One of those signals will be a dummy signal, just in case someone spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what's going into the field. And, of course, you could signal in quickly to a defense at the last minute, pass or run or some relevant information. It's been done. I don't think you can do it when there are 2 people signaling, however.
Lester Hayes on the coverage. Cosby was the intended target. Hayes playing his man, one man for man a la basketball, denying his man the ball. And of course, Hayes was a fine high school player at 5'11", was a center and can dunk the ball any way you'd like it.
Well, they put some pressure on those receivers today. Pelor, with that ability to scramble, gives them a little more time to throw that football. And when you're playing man-to-man, those seconds become an eternity.
3rd and goal outside the 2.
Quarterback rollout. No.
Intended for Renfro. It's not a completed pass. Ruled juggled. No control by Renfro. Even had they ruled that a catch, it would not have been a touchdown.
Pelor over to argue, as is Renfro, saying, yeah, it's a completion.
Here's a chance to take a look.
This one didn't run into the camera, but came close as you watch the toss. Let's check his hands, check his feet. He's looking up. I think it was a catch.
Boy, that's a tough one, even on the replay.
I don't think it makes that much difference. They're going to try the shot at the field goal anyway, but it looked to me to be a catch.
Septien had a 20-yard field goal in the first half, and this one will be another, much the same as an extra point, but just on the hash mark.
Anytime you look at that in slow motion, though, it's a little difficult. Well, they may be looking at it upstairs. Let's run it again. we may as well. It's going to stop here for a second. Let's take a peek at it. Had they gotten the play away, it would have been stopped here.
Well, it'll create an interesting call for Landry if they rule it a catch, because it'll be 4th and goal at the 1.
Here's another angle of that last play. Now, we're going to have a hard time seeing from that one, but I really believe that he had control of that football. He's not bobbling it at all, and you saw the last part of the play. from the top. I think he had control of it.
Evidence was not irrefutable.
Well, I'm not going to argue.
No, that's why we're all frustrated by this thing called instant replay. Septien to break the tie from 20. And Dallas leads 13-10, but 20-yard field goals are not good statistics. That means you got down inside the 5 and didn't get 6 points.
One more look at what the instant replays officials said was not irrefutable evidence. You can figure that one out for yourself at home.
Oh, come out and say it. Howdy. Give me a light. Bud Light.
If you just ask for a light beer, you never know what you'll get.
Give me a light. A Bud Light.
So if you want the less filling light beer with the first name and taste, don't just ask for a light beer.
Give me a light. Bud Light.
Ask for Bud Light, because everything else is just a light.
Hi. Buy your friend a beer.
When we want to work up a sweat.
I tell you, that Herschel Walker inspired me. Did you hear me doing my exercises last night? I did my sit-ups and push-ups. I came a little short. Walker last night before the game did 500 sit-ups, 100 push-ups. He said normally every night before he goes to bed, 500 of each.
How many did you do?
22. Never lifted a weight, he said. Trailing 13-10, Fulton Walker returns the kickoff to the 26 for the Raiders. You were much like Walker. You never lifted weights either. Well, this becomes heavy now and then, but we do want to give you the scores every 10 minutes. Boy, San Diego, they must be sweating a bit up there at Mile High. Giants trying to stay with Washington in the East, and San Francisco could move within a half of the Rams with a win led by Montana, the other late games. Montana has hit Jerry Rice 3 times for 45, 41, and 44-yard touchdowns today.
Oof. Now let's see what Jim Plunkett can do. They got a touchdown the last time he got his hands on the ball.
Swings it out to McCallum. And the ensign puts a move on Jeff Rohr and gets out to the 29 before Jim Jeffcoat, trailing the play, can make the stop.
McCallum kind of an intro. Well, Jeffcoat furious, apparently feeling that Bruce Davis was hanging on to his frame on that last play. McCallum, a very interesting running style, a big, strong, stand-up kind of runner. A little bit reminiscent of the running style of Franco Harris, perhaps, but with more power. Harris, a cutback runner. McCallum, really a power runner, and unusual to see that upright style.
Marcus Allen on the bench, and so it's McCallum again. Oh, cut down by Jeff Rohr. The Cowboys sent their linebacker, Rohr, and the ex-Yale star deposits McCallum for a loss.
A little bit of extracurricular activity going on between Randy White and Don Mospar on that play.
Jeff Rohr. There's James Davis. He had been back in the locker room in the first half, and they take him back again. 2-yard loss on the play. Started to say Rohr's dad, who is a lifeguard, 51 years old. He's still a lifeguard out there in California. He's been proud of that move. Third and 9. Plunkett, flag down. Incomplete. He didn't get both feet in. Jesse Hester. We may have a hold.
We're going to see a holding call. I think it'll be turned down. They'll want the kick. Cowboys will say no and put their kick return team on the field. Plunkett's a heady veteran, though. Waited as long as he could. Stretched that one to the sideline.
79, declined, 4th down.
Sometimes the complaining will force an official to look. You saw Jeffcoat a moment ago saying, he's holding me, he's holding me.
They called against Bruce Davis, 79.
79, the man that they ticketed. And, of course, Jeffcoat rushing from that outside position has been very effective today. And not easy to keep him out of there.
Gordon Banks back at the Dallas 32 as Guy kicks.
Ooh, big, high kick.
25-yard line, Banks. Returns to the 28-yard line. Gordon said right after the Thanksgiving Day game against Seattle, we'll be doing that. He's going to run off, get married that Sunday.
Listen to the heartbeat. Listen to the heartbeat of America.
When you have a stop.
Easy to throw that football. On the other hand, watch Pat Haggerty. You think it's easy to throw a flag? Watch Haggerty. I got it. That doggone 5-yard line tripped him up.
You've got to watch those painted lines. They'll get you every time.
He's really got that right arm firing, though. Dallas ball leading 13-10 with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. And Pallor play action. And slides in with a first down at the 40. And Pallor has been a force running the football. He started today with 114 yards rushing, third best for the Cowboys behind Walker and Dorsett, and he has 57 more plus a 25-yard touchdown called back.
When you're already looking at your starting quarterback on the sideline with a broken wrist, I'm not sure you want to see your next quarterback go down. And there's Paul McDonald with the clipboard, just brought in, talking to Danny White with a cast on his hand. I asked McDonald about the system. He said it's the most complex I've ever seen. So he's got his homework cut out for him.
Very bright guy.
He is.
Pallor hit down by 54 Reggie McKenzie. He'll get the sack.
Piquel actually got the first hand on him, but McKenzie finished it off as Piquel came from his nose tackle position to force that play. You see that strap of tape on the nose. His helmet has come down a couple of times as he has butted into that line and split the bridge of his nose, and he wears that tape for protection.
Ball back to the 36-yard line. Second down, clock running with 5:10 left in this third period. The Cowboys 13, the Raiders 10. So important for both teams with just 7 left after this afternoon. Dorsett, and it's number 56, Jeff Barnes, knifing through. The veteran from California. Another loss. 6 more yards moved back.
Barnes usually plays in the passing situations. He's platooned in there with Jerry Robinson. But watch how quickly he gets across, dives right across the block by Newsom and into the legs of Tony Dorsett, who couldn't believe that he was coming all the way outside. Excellent play by Jeff Barnes.
That might put Dorsett back under 100. Third down. Almost 25 to go.
Is it just me, or does this Dorsett not quite look as quick as he was in the first half, Dick?
Yeah, they went out with that knee and maybe still bothering him. He's in the pass pattern. Pallor doesn't see him. Howie Long's got Pallor. Not in the grasp. Tony Hill. Ooh, a punishing tackle by Stacy Turan. Actually, no gain, maybe a yard loss on the play.
If I were Tony Hill, I'd tell Pallor, I'd say, next time you got a pass like that, please throw it to somebody else.
Ooh. Turan had about a 40-yard running start on that tackle.
Tony Hill's still shaking his head. He's been popped a few times, and he'll take his punishment. He won't complain about it, but that's not the kind you like to catch, I'll tell you.
Mike Saxon will deliver from around the 20. Fulton Walker back at the Raider 30.
Oh.
End over end, returnable.
It is returnable.
But good coverage by the Cowboys as Walker is stopped at the 33-yard line, a 42-yard punt. Jeff Rohr led the charge. All the scores for you. The Jets now a team record 9 straight wins for New York. New England rallied. They were down at Indianapolis most of the game. The Bears recover from their Monday night loss. New Orleans, well, the Rams, after leaving Chicago, went right to New Orleans. What'd you say? Bourbon Street got
Bourbon Street got another victim.
You know the feeling.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you. The teams really have trouble playing down there because they simply can't keep their discipline.
And Buffalo hands Marv Levy, their new head coach, a victory at home. Late score, San Diego, another field goal, leading now by 6. No change, Giants by 17 and San Francisco by 20. Vance Mueller, the rookie from Occidental, number 42, is the man out on the wing for the Raiders. They like to send him deep. Plunkett stops, throws to Christensen, and it's a first down out at the 46-yard line. The first catch of the day for the Raiders tight end.
One of the things that makes Christensen such a fine receiver is he'll never quit. As long as that ball is in the hands of his quarterback, he's working to get open. You saw Plunkett as he jogged up. Here's Christensen. Watch him working to get open in the pattern. Pass was supposed to be thrown here. There's Plunkett. He sees he's in trouble. Keeps working down into the open area. Finally gets the football.
58th catch of the year for Christensen. First down across the 45. 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter. McCallum for 6 yards as he ducks into the Dallas 49. Randy White with another tackle assisted by Mike Hegman.
Raiders have not been in Cowboy territory very many times today.
Next week on NBC, we have a doubleheader for you. Those are the early games. Seattle and Cincinnati licking wounds after losses today, and then the late games, boy, they all have solid implications for the playoffs. So be with us for a double dipper on NBC next Sunday. Plunkett dumping it off and hit McCallum right in the helmet, it appears.
Some confusion in the offensive line about how they were going to work their protection. They stopped after the play to say, I thought you had him. No, I thought you had him. That's not good news for a quarterback. Plunkett forced to just fire that ball, and McCallum, I think, sensing that he was going to get that football, started to turn around, but it was already on top of him.
3rd and 5.
Big play here. Raiders need to get themselves some points.
Marcus Allen, who has played a limited role today. Plunkett, after Mark Wilson was yanked. Wilson played the entire first half. Allen in the pattern. Plunkett in trouble. Randy White's got him.
On the play matches the number on Plunkett's uniform as Randy White puts him down 16 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and that's a case where mobility can make a big difference, and Plunkett just no match for Randy White. Still a very quick lineman in spite of the 33 years of age on those legs of his.
That is a concern, though. Tom Landry's got Ed Jones 35, Dutton 35, White 33.
Another boomer.
He has kicked well today. Banks back at his 15. He's got running room. 30 and tripped up at the 33. The man who may have saved a long return was Andy Parker, number 81. 50 yards on the punt by Guy. 18 by Banks on the return. Well, looking ahead, and I guess we're at that time of the year where you can look toward the end of the season, kind of gauge what the opponents stacked up that might deny you. For the Raiders, they go home to Cleveland next week. San Diego, Philadelphia, Seattle, Kansas City, Indianapolis. Some would say that's not a bad schedule, that they could win all those games. Well, probably would be favored right now in all except at Seattle.
I think they would. They've had trouble at Seattle.
We'll check the Dallas has a much tougher road. First down, Cowboys. They lead 13-10. A minute 19 remaining in the third quarter. Pallure to Hill. Inbounds. It's a good catch at the 45, 47-yard line. Hill came into the game with 38 catches this year, 3 for touchdown.
A chance to look, if you will, at Howie Long, and a little stunt going over here. You'll see Sean Jones come in this way. Howie's going to go around the outside. Plur dropping back, feels the pressure, and just rolls out of there. Again, using his mobility to get away from the pass rush. Look at that. Pressure on the inside. He just rolls out. Has a lot of time, although Townsend, with his quickness, right on top of him.
He actually just ran Jones right into the block, didn't he? First down at the 47. Plur scrambling and just does get a yard out of the play. Paquel 71. Let's look at the Cowboys remaining 7 at San Diego. Then a big one at Washington. They beat Washington here earlier. Thanksgiving Day will be here for that Seattle game. Then at Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Chicago. Cowboys really will have to have all the equipment ready because that's a tough haul.
Of course, they do all that with Danny White, their starting quarterback, on the sideline. And although Steve Pelora has played well in the games that he has played in, he's proved today that he still will make those mistakes that a young quarterback will make.
31 seconds left in this third quarter. Second down and 9. Deep for Sherrard. McElroy intercepts. Van McElroy can't get away from Sherrard, who does a good job in denying a long interception return. But another turnover, the 10th of the game. And the Raiders have stopped Dallas again. And the Cowboys, guilty. That's certainly uncharacteristic of both teams.
McElroy had this pass all the way. Just timed it so that he jumped and took the ball away at its highest point, not giving the receiver a chance to get back at him, although that's a fine job, as you said, by Sherrard of quickly becoming a defensive player, grabbing McElroy, keeping him from getting up that sideline.
2 for McElroy today. Everson Walls has a pair for Dallas. 5 interceptions of Steve Pelor. Scott Pelor's brother, of course, a linebacker, no longer in the NFL, cut by the Saints this year. So it remains 13-10, and it's the Raiders' turn. Marcus Allen. Ooh. John Dutton, the old man from Nebraska, helped out by Bill Bates, and Allen is hit for a loss of 1 or 2.
Now, you mentioned the age of the players as being a problem in that defensive line. Not a problem individually, but the problem that they have, basically, is that they're all getting old at the same time.
And that's the end of the third quarter. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Monday. Out here, there's a beer brewed with a taste of the heartland. A wheat brewed beer. It's wheat that makes this a gutsier beer. Born wild, raised proud. Miller makes it, and they call it Dakota. Straight from the heartland. Dakota, the wheat brewed beer.
You never know when you...
What did they ever do in the NFL before telecommunications?
Well, I tell you, Pelor talking to Paul Hackett upstairs, and I'm sure Hackett talking to him, what did you see? Why did you react that way? Why did you throw in that particular fashion? It's a quarterback-activated offense. The quarterback runs the show, makes the choices, much more so in an offense of this kind than in a running-oriented offense, and Hackett wants him to make the good choices.
Second down, 11 for the Raiders as we open the fourth quarter. Offside, so Plunkett will go through with the play, and he hits his man, Doki Williams. And Williams, who has a touchdown, spins out to the 40-yard line. It appeared that Too Tall had moved into the neutral zone.
As they gather up, I think you're going to see the encroachment
Offside.
call.
Defense, number 72, decline, first down.
I think Jones not the only one offside. I think Dutton was offside at the same time.
21 yards on the play.
Raiders need only one more interception to equal their total for last year, Dick. So they're really ahead of the game in that area. 3 quarters. Look at that. Still a very dominant number by the Cowboys, but they have been able to stifle themselves with turnovers. 5 interceptions, 1 fumble given away on the day. Total of 6. They were a -3 on the turnover table coming into this game.
Plunkett going for the bomb. He has a man wide open, and he can't hit him inbounds. It was Williams streaking down the sidelines. He had 2 steps on the defender, Ron Fellows, but Plunkett threw it too wide.
We saw it earlier in the day. Mark Wilson had trouble getting that ball long enough to hit those deep receivers. This one is long enough. 1 foot down, 2nd foot out of bounds.
Well, you could just see Plunkett. He could taste that one. Pelor's 5 interceptions have tied a Dallas Cowboy record set by Eddie LeBaron twice. I'm sure little Eddie's happy that we're bringing up his name. And equaled by Danny White. From the 42nd and 10. Plunkett dumps it off to Allen, who is stopped at the 44-yard line, a 5-yard pickup.
It's that same kind of pass, and you see Marcus shaking his head that Tony Hill got a few moments ago. Don Meredith used to call those medicine balls. He said they throw you the ball and you go get some medicine.
Marcus favoring that ankle that kept him out of the starting lineup 4 of the last 6 games, and counting today 5 of the last 7.
So hard for a running back to get better when he plays because he takes so many shots.
Crowd sensing the importance of this 3rd down.
Plunkett's going to run for it.
And he has the first down at the 49.
I believe he made it. Jim Plunkett still able to get those legs moving. Not graceful, not beautiful, but he got the first down. Todd Christensen trying to get away on the outside. Vince Alberton. A little bit of hook and roll there, but he's up looking for the pass still.
Well, you can't call a penalty when your quarterback's running.
Well, I believe Christensen doing some hooking of his own there as he reached around behind, and Alberton giving him a little help.
12:50 left in the game. Dallas leads 13-10. Up the middle goes Frank Hawkins, the fullback, to the 45. A gain of a long 4. Dutton and Rohr on the tackle. It's Cowboy defense, number 1 against the pass in yardage allowed this year in the NFL, and yet came into the game with only 7 interceptions. They have 3 more today, 2 by Everson Walls. And we'll see if Plunkett tests that defense here on 2nd and 5.
Plunkett's always had that downfield magic, Dick.
Marcus Allen going deep. But Plunkett goes down. John Dutton. That's his 5th sack this year. 1 more than all of last season.
Got to be difficult for a quarterback who has not been working a great deal, who's been watching, to come in to pick up the reads so quickly. Plunkett, not sure of what he saw there, opted to pull that pass down. I think had he been playing, he probably would have had enough confidence to whip it out of there. Marcus looked to be coming open just as he was sacked.
3rd down and 13. Plunkett caught by Christensen, a first down at the 35. There were 3 Cowboys there with a chance for the interception, but Todd Christensen, the ex-Cowboy, was able to get the bounce.
Earlier in the game, a pass just like that off the hands of Christensen, intercepted by the Cowboys. Bill Bates volleyballs it into the air. And Todd Christensen said, "That's my ball."
That's how you get 60 catches or more a year, and he's been more up around 80 a season.
Let's watch Plunkett. Let's watch the look on his face as he senses that that ball is a potential interception. And finally, oh yeah, that's the way it's meant to be.
So on a kind carom, the Raider drive is still alive, trailing by 3 with a mix-up between Hawkins.
Too much time. McCallum, I believe, as you saw Hawkins motion back to him, you got to get up here, you got to be on the outside. They may have anticipated a blitz, but in the process of moving, took too much time. Here's Hawkins, who's kind of a tutor to McCallum. He'll tell him, you know, he's giving him the word right here. Move up, come on, come on. Then he finally said stay back, but by then it was too late.
But there's the difference. Plunkett took the 5-yard penalty rather than spend the timeout. It'll be first down and 15 as you see the clock running. They don't stop the clock on penalty until the final 2 minutes. in front of Everson Walls. Dokie Williams didn't have much of a chance. Walls, who had been without an interception all year, close to the hat trick, and they do come in bunches.
They really do. It's a strange game. Of course, sometimes that's because of a game plan. They're coming after you. You just find yourself where all of the action is.
.24 left. 2nd and 15. Both wide receivers to the left. And now Hester in motion. Deep for Williams. Touchdown. What a catch by Williams as Plunkett laid it up for 4 men, and Williams wrestled it away, and the Raiders lead for the first time.
You see a little bit of a smile from Jim Plunkett. That ball could just as easily have been intercepted as completed, but it was thrown in an area where Dokie Williams had a shot at it, and he was not going to let the defenders get it. He simply went up and took it away from them.
And there's the difference between the Plunkett throw and the 2 by Wilson in the first half. They were far enough that Williams still was going with the momentum, whereas the passes in the first half were short, and the receiver had to stop, and they were incomplete or intercepted. Chris Barr tries to make it 17-13.
Here's the end of that play. In fact, the complete play as you get a quick look at Dokie Williams. Now look at that ball as Dokie just springs into the air. Tremendous leap as he went up and took it away from the defense.
This baby will blow the doors off anything on the road.
I need a trainer. How about Eddie? He's just a kid.
So was I. You've worked long and hard to get there. When the time comes, you hope you're ready.
You make America work. This bus for you.
Here's to you. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
This bus for you.
Today's game is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Castrol, the motor oil engineered for today's smaller cars. And by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. To arrange a thorough test drive, phone your nearest BMW dealer.
Dokie Williams was an All-American track performer for Jim Bush at UCLA, and he has shown you why it helps as a receiver to have 9.4 speed and 25.11 long jump ability. He's used that leaping talent to score twice. This is Robert Levette on the return out to the 28-yard line. Fulton Walker with another tackle. Vance Mueller there as well. Well, after the McElroy interception, the Raiders go 80 yards in 10 plays. Don't forget that 3rd and 13 play when Bill Bates tipped the ball and Christensen caught the carom to keep the drive alive.
Dick, there are always 4 or 5 plays in a game that really turn the momentum of a game. And you go back and you look and you say that was the turning point in the game. No question. One of the critical turning points in this game. And it bounced into the Raider hands.
17-13 Raiders, and now it's the Cowboys for the first time dealing from behind. 10 minutes left in the game. Dorsett, the only man behind Pallure. Broke the tackle in the backfield, and Vaquel brings him down at the 32. 3-yard gain for Dorsett. The other late games, they're in the middle of the 4th quarter in Denver and San Diego in an all field goal game leads. Philadelphia scored on a Cunningham to Quick bomb, and San Francisco pounding St. Louis. Here it's a 4-point game. The Raiders leading. Dallas with the pumpkin at the 31.5. They actually call this the 32 once the ball's past the 31, although the center, Rafferty, tips it back on the 31. Pallure hits, throws, and he was in the grass. That'll be a sack. Stacy Turan, number 30, on a safety blitz.
Great pressure from the outside as Turan just snuck up on the outside and came in wide open. Nobody touched him. You'll see him coming from the right-hand side of your screen, and Pelor will sense him coming quickly. We turn this play loose for you. There he is. No one to block him. And Pelor trying to get that out of there and make it look like a pass, but they'd already blown the whistle and the play was dead.
Boy, 3 years ago, the Irish at Notre Dame had Dave Dorison and Stacy Turan as defensive backs. And they're both all-pro timber. 3rd and long. Dorsett can't hang on out at the 26. Tony might have been guilty of trying to catch that one with one eye and looking upfield with the other.
Greg Townsend in there got some pressure on Pelor. I'm sure Dorsett was thinking first down all the way on that play. Had a long ways to go.
In comes Mike Saxon with 8:56 left.
Saxon against the wind last week had one punt that went 6 yards. We saw an 8-yarder by Ray Guy in a game against in the wind against Miami.
Colton Walker awaits. Beautiful kick.
Very nice kick.
Flag down on that initial block, and Walker is too. And the Raiders will be penalized back from about the 27-yard line, half the distance, as James Davis.
Tough luck call. Stephon Adams, 44, thought he had position. Man turned his back on him, and he hit him in the back.
Illegal block in the back, number 44 on the return.
Stephon shaking his head, and that's tough. He thought he had position on the man. Man turned his back at the last minute, legitimately so, and he hit him in the back.
That's what we were talking about before. Sometimes you think you make a good block, the man just twists on you. Timeout, 8:44 left. Raiders leading Dallas 17-13. The Black Hats ahead of the White Hats. Ahmad Rashad, double personality. That was a good feature.
Excellent piece. And Ahmad, we love the pink tie.
Sweet tie.
Well, it's the bad guys, the Black Hats with the ball right now on the Cowboy defense on the field to try and stop them.
Napoleon McCallum to the 23. 4 yards for McCallum.
Dick, it's been a tough year for quarterbacks. Only 13 of the quarterbacks in the NFL have been able to start every game. And, of course, right now we have backup quarterbacks in for both of these teams. The one difference between the two backup quarterbacks is experience. Number of games started. The youngster, Steve Pelor, and on the other side of the line, the veteran Jim Plunkett.
Paul McDonald, he's actually behind Reggie Collier. Should Pelor go down. McCallum, finding his own hole, gets out to the 29-yard line. Rohr again in on the tackle, along with Michael Downs. Talked about the safeties of the Raiders in on so many tackles. Michael Downs is the second tackler on the defense of Dallas. There's Collier, the sometimes brilliant but somewhat undisciplined quarterback, and that's been the problem, that he has so much talent that in his pass they just let him do whatever he wanted to. He can run it and he can pass it. Dallas, you've got to fit the system.
You really have to fit in, but he has been a valuable performer here for Tom Landry, who has used him a great deal as a wide receiver because of injuries to his wide receivers earlier in the year. In fact, Collier did not get many chances at all. As you see the measurement in the first down for the Raiders, Collier has said publicly, look, I really want to play quarterback. I'll help wherever I can, but I do want to be a quarterback.
Well, when you figure Pelor and his running ability and Collier's, plus the Heisman boys, Walker and Dorsett, plus their number 1 pick or number 2 pick Darryl Clack and Lovett. Oh, they have some speed in the backfield. 7:28 remaining in the fourth quarter. The Raiders with a 4-point lead. Reverse to Williams, and he's got room. Look out. Whoa. Skids down at midfield. They'll rule him down back at the 47-yard line. Eugene Lockhart.
Dipsy-do for the Raiders as they bring Dokie Williams all the way around from the other side of the field.
San Diego 1-8 beats Denver 8-1, 9-3 in Denver. There's the upset maybe of this year. Al Saunders, the new Charger coach, with a big scalp in Denver. Boy, and that puts the Kansas City Chiefs one game out of first place. McCallum to the 49 of Dallas. Lockhart with a stop. Tonight on NBC, Our House Tradition, 3 generations sharing their life and their love. Then on Easy Street, Bullies green with envy when Ricardo becomes a recording star. No accident when Willie takes a joyride in his dad's car on Valerie. Then a baffling murder case, live television. Hey, a 2-hour feature movie, Perry Mason, the case of the shooting star. All after our action tonight. You'll see that in its entirety, despite the length of this game. Second down, 7. Ooh, McCallum is cracked hard. Earns 2. Randy White has had a big game. Make that Hawkins. Frank Hawkins, 27. And Randy White was a fanatical bass fisherman. He does 2 radio shows here in Dallas. On Friday, he does the Cowboys show. He says, but I just say some stuff about last week and some junk about this week. But Saturday, you want to listen, that's when I do my fishing and outdoors show. Get the real material in.
He's been nursing a hamstring. He's been in the training room more than on the fishing pond.
3rd and 5, and the crowd is in it.
There's your home field advantage. You can hear it.
Wide open Christensen. First down at the 33, and a flag is down. A late flag.
Possibly an illegal bump, possibly an offensive interference. Let's see what happened on the play as Pat Haggerty begins to sort it out.
Sometimes it's against the tight end when it comes in from that official that late.
It's against the Raiders. They're signaling it back.
We have offensive foul, 46, and a defensive foul, 56.
Both ticketed. Todd Christensen, they are saying, was doing some offensive interfering. And they're saying that Eugene Lockhart was doing some defensive interfering. There's the battle going on there between those two. Christensen finally getting away.
He just had to extricate himself. Al Britton was all over him.
Well, I think both of them guilty of illegal contact on that play.
No play. The 2 penalties negate, and it's 3rd and 5 again.
And back to the critical long yardage situation for Plunkett, and Fuller thinks that he's going to get another shot at it. He may well be right, unless the Raiders can convert on this 3rd and 6.
Under 5 minutes left. 17-13 the score. Whoops. Movement on both sides of the line. Henry Lawrence moved back on the right tackle.
And I think Don Smirek was well within the neutral zone, though, when the other movement took place. And I believe that one will go against the defense.
It might be negating again. No, Plunkett is indicating that's for us.
Encroachment, defense.
Don Smirek, number 60.
Smirek, I believe, may have made contact. And, of course, if he does, it's an automatic penalty against the defense. Right there, and still within the neutral zone, even though Henry Lawrence moved, it was obviously because of the encroachment by the defensive player.
This is going to be very close for a first down when they mark off the 5.
I think it's probably going to be a little short if they're accurate with the marking of the yard marker, but it will probably be a measurement anyway. No, not going to measure it.
It'll be 3rd and less than a yard.
Plunkett gets the call from the sideline. Tom Flores calling the plays for the Raiders. We'll get some input from his staff. Marcus Allen behind Frank Hawkins, and now Hawkins goes to the outside and leaves Allen alone.
Steve Strahan in motion, leading Allen. He doesn't make it.
He's going to be awfully close, and if he does come up short, do you kick the ball away or do you go for it on 4th down?
Tom Flores will have that weighty problem on his shoulders because it's 4th down, and actually Allen lost a half a yard. And in comes the punting team. What a big play.
What Tom Flores is saying right here is, let's put this ball and let's put the responsibility with our defensive team. They have played the best football of the day. Let's see if they can control the Cowboy offense.
Tom Landry will have plenty of time, as you can see, 4 minutes left.
This is a critical punt for Guy. Has probably had his best day of the year as a punter, or certainly as good as any that he's had all year.
Banks standing at the 10.
Going for the sideline. Oh, just missed it. He'll
Within
come out
his
to the
grasp.
20.
So Steve Pallor brings on the Cowboy offense. They've used one timeout in the second half, have 2 remaining. First down at the 20. 3 minutes, 41 seconds remain. The Raiders lead by 4. 80 yards away. Dallas with the first down. 3:41 left, trailing by 4. The Raiders will use 3 linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 defensive backs, a prevent defense. No first downs for Dallas in this 4th quarter. Now they're going to go with 4 down linemen. Whoa, Pallor just does get back to the line of scrimmage and almost lost the football. Howie Long had his mitts on it. And that'll be a sack as he doesn't quite get back to the 20. That'll be the 4th sack for the Raiders.
Some stunning going on that last play as you watch Howie Long coming hard to the inside. That's Townsend, I believe, going to the outside on that play. Watch it as Long gets inside, gets knocked down by the tight end, but sweeps everything away. And Turan on the blitz again has Pallor, but he gets away only to be sacked. Getting upfield, 2nd and long.
Patel got the sack. It was Turan again, and twice he had his hands on the ball. 2nd and 11. Shotgun Pallor. Last week he had to forsake the shotgun because of the noise at Giant Stadium. He goes deep for Hill. Hill was using his right hand to ward off Haynes and had to go after the pass one-handed and couldn't pull the trick.
Cowboys, who have been working the short zones all day, go for the long bomb here. Man-to-man coverage. Mike Haynes tight on the man, looking right into his eyes. Turning here, you saw the little push, and the official not able to see that, got him in position, but he couldn't control the football.
Pallor hoping all the way. The pass was there. Not quite.
3rd and 10.5, 11 yards to go out of the shotgun.
Pallor did a great job of just avoiding the sack. Sean Jones, 99, was all about him. So 2:54 left. The Cowboys didn't use much time and wound up losing a yard in 3 plays. And for those of you that are joining us, here are the late games, all finals now. San Diego, the huge upset at Denver. The Giants just did hold off the Eagles after a 17-0 lead, and San Francisco moves to within a half of the Western lead. The Rams lost to New Orleans today.
Landry's decision is similar to the one made by Flores. He wants his defense on the field as he elects to kick it away on 4th down.
Yeah, you don't want to give them a chance to have an easy score from that 20. So Saxon gets a short kick. Fair catch. Walker at his own 43-yard line. 38-yard punt, no return. Now it's up to the Cowboy defense to deny the Raiders. They have 2 timeouts plus the 2-minute warning.
Jim Plunkett getting last-minute instructions from Tom Flores. Plunkett, by the way, when he was the starting quarterback, that's going back a couple of years, called his own plays. When Mark Wilson came into the lineup, Mark was uncomfortable calling his own plays. They changed the system, began to call the plays for the quarterbacks, and then when Plunkett came back into the lineup, they kept calling the plays for the quarterback.
Marcus Allen stopped at the 45-yard line, and time is called. The Cowboys will use one of their timeouts here rather than allowing the Raiders to almost chew up all the time to the 2-minute warning. Just to review for those of you who might be joining us late, as you see Hall of Famer Ernie Stautner of the Cowboys. Rafael Septien has kicked 2 20-yard field goals. That meant the Cowboys were right on the doorstep inside the 5, had to settle for 3. The Cowboys have had 2 touchdowns called back by penalty, a 25-yard run by Pallur and a pass interception by Everson Walls, both tonight, and they did not score after those penalties denied the touchdowns. The Raiders were trailing 10-3 at the half. Mark Wilson had another disastrous half. Tom Flores made the switch to veteran Jim Plunkett, and he has thrown 2 touchdown passes, both to Dokie Williams, 20 yards and 40 yards, to give the Raiders a 17-13 lead.
And there are those, I'm sure, who will say that if Flores had made that choice last week and put Plunkett into the game, they might have been able to rescue that game against the Broncos. And with the Broncos losing today, oh, how different things could have been. We can tell you that Plunkett has responded well to his opportunities here in the second half and has made some excellent plays, and perhaps even more critically, has not made the mistakes.
Tony Dorsett, who moved past O.J. Simpson in yards rushing, number 5 all time, well over 11,000 yards in his great career. He passed O.J. earlier in this game. As you saw Plunkett walk back, the story reminds me of the quality and character of the man Plunkett. In college at Stanford, where many young men at that age on the weekends would enjoy the social life, he'd go home and walk his blind mother around the neighborhood and talk to her about what was happening in the neighborhood and relating to her. His mother, Carmen, she's watching in her own way today as her son tries to pull off the comeback. Marcus Allen. And his most important run of the day. He stays inbounds and picks up the first down as well. 10 yards for Allen. And the clock now at 2:28. And the Raiders can let it run all the way to the 2-minute warning unless Dallas wants to spend its final timeout.
Marcus will go to the sideline to talk to Tom Flores. Some of the Raiders thought there was a little extra hit on Marcus as he went to the ground. In fact, Rod Martin, defensive linebacker, headed onto the field. You know, there's frustration on the Cowboys sideline. Understandably so.
And now the timeout, after some 15 seconds or more, had ticked away. Dallas's last timeout. Dokie Williams, who caught only 4 passes as a senior at UCLA. 8 passes, 4 were for touchdowns. And it is this total talent. It's his leaping ability. First, isolated on Walls, times it, leaps, and has the 20-yard score. And then that was against 1 man. This is against 4.
Tremendous. Look how high off the ground Dokie went to get that football, and then catching it with arms, grabbing at his and grabbing at that ball. Certainly the 2 biggest catches of the year for Dokie, or 2 of the biggest. We haven't followed him all the way through this season, but he has certainly matured as a receiver. He went from being one of the youngest on this Raider team to being one of the oldest, now in his 5th year, and he is the veteran receiver on this squad.
That's a good point you made. You know, the Raiders, you just think of them as being kind of the veteran, grizzled, sage players, but this is a very young team. The 4 wide receivers for the Raiders average only 24.3 years. The 6 defensive linemen are only 24.3 average, and the 5 running backs average 24.6. So it's a Raider team, very young. All right, the AFC West. The Raiders are 5-4, looking not to go 5-5. Kansas City moves within 1 of Denver. Denver still with the best record and best in the division. Seattle suddenly down to 5-5. McCallum to the 40. And the clock will now run to the 2-minute timeout. Let's look at the Cowboys situation. Should they lose, they would drop 2 full games behind the Giants and Washington, both winners today. Dallas has an excellent in-division record of 5-1 and have 2 left at Washington, home against Philadelphia. Teams that aren't very good can adjust, I suppose, easier to defeat. But for the Dallas Cowboys, and they're not beaten yet, but in real trouble, to lose 2 in a row when you are in command of those games. And many felt they were the better team against the Giants last week, but just couldn't put them away on that final drive. And today they've had 2 touchdowns nullified by penalty. How do you digest those, Merlin?
They're very hard and squandered many other opportunities to score, Dick. And I guess what we're seeing here is what happens when a young quarterback takes over an offense. He's got to go through that period when he fights through those mistakes, and you see it right at the end of that column. 5 interceptions on the day.
And he had Walker fumble on the 1-foot line.
Well, and he can't control all those interceptions. He's not responsible for all of them, but he is for enough of them to make a pretty painful night and a pretty painful session of films tomorrow.
Quarterbacks aren't responsible, but they are blamed for all of them. 38-yard line, short yardage. Now the clock will run, and for the Cowboys, their most important thing is to get off the pile and so that the official can mark the spot and start the 30-second count. There it is, starting now at 1:45.
Herschel Walker, I'm sure, even though he's made some great plays in this game, some excellent plays, will remember the play that he got the football knocked away from him. Matt Millen putting his shoulder on that football. And on the other sideline, I'm sure there were very mixed emotions with Mark Wilson, benched at halftime.
Cowboys cannot stop the clock, and they must stop the Raiders here and bring up 4th down. Allen hit in the backfield, trying to get him out of bounds. They do not. He stopped at the 35. Clock will continue to run.
4th down.
We'll see where they mark it. It's down to 1:05, and it continues to tick away. There, they mark it at 1:01. So the Raiders can let it chew down to 31 seconds and then run a play.
They're going to give the ball to Ray Guy. Now, what would you consider, Dick, snapping it to Ray Guy and letting him run around for 20 seconds back there? Maybe even run out of the end zone, take the safety.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even risk a
one thing you can be sure of, they'll let it run down and take the penalty.
That's right. They'll take the 5, and it'll come right now. They're at 31 seconds. Guy might just to be told, be sure you just kick it somewhere as soon as you get it. And the Cowboys, in turn, their only hope now is to send everyone after Guy, although they do have Banks back at the 10.
Now, I can't really understand that, except that we said earlier the Cowboys special team coach is not here. He's in the hospital. Alan Lowry is there with phlebitis. They have had to use Jim Myers to coordinate the special teams today, which really puts them at a disadvantage in this kind of situation.
Guy, who has a long string of not having a kick blocked in the regular season, it's like the top 3 all time. He knows how to get rid of it, as he shows.
Boy, he does. Way high. Gonna have to fair catch it.
At the 13-yard line with 23 seconds remain. The clock stopped on change of possession. 22-yard punt by Guy. His job well done.
And you've got to wonder at how deep you will find the Raider defenders. Up at Lester Hayes at 20 yards from the line.
Well, a game that featured so many mistakes, so many turnovers. Raiders send the veteran Jim Plunkett at age 38 to the field in the second half, and he's able to come up with a couple of touchdown throws to rally the Raiders in a must-win, can't-lose game.
There comes Lester, drop it back.
Pallure broken up by James Davis, intended for Mike Sherrard. And here is one of the controversial plays of the game, right on the goal line. Herschel Walker on 1st and goal. Inside the 1, makes the dive. Watch 55, Matt Millen, in the middle of your picture.
And look at Herschel Walker. Right there, you see him start to scramble back, looking for the football. Football obviously broken loose, and we had other angles on that punt to show the ball breaking loose while he was suspended in the air, trying to go over the stack.
Some of the Dallas fans thought he had broken the plane. Out of bounds gets Sherrard to stop the clock at the 27-yard line, but the clock says only 10 ticks left. Flag is down, and there's holding against Dallas. So the Cowboys apparently will fall 2 full games behind the Giants, with whom they have split, and behind the Redskins. They beat them here and will play at Washington in 2 weeks. The Raiders back in the wild card derby. And maybe better as Denver loses a surprise loss to San Diego today.
Not what anyone expected to see up in the Mile High City. And Tom Landry yesterday said something very prophetic. He said, I hate to play against a good team that is desperate. And the Raiders came in a desperate situation. They have managed to pull this game out. Certainly, Landry will remember the squandered opportunities and the fumbles and the interceptions more than anything else.
Well, here comes that long desperation throw. And it was almost intercepted on the carom by Turan. And we have time for a final play. 3 seconds left. We'll have all the scores for you after we return from this game, as well as today's most valuable player, Budweiser's MVP. Thanks to Doug Adams, Jared Bell, Jerry Cohen, Mitch Lewis, Tim Haydinger in the booth today, and Ted Nathanson, Larry Cirillo down the truck, and all our team from Irving, Texas. Oh, a lot of plays that were difficult to follow, and the camera crew, they had to be alert the way the ball bounced around, interceptions and fumbles. And now the final play of the game. Kallur, incomplete. And the Los Angeles Raiders have won a crucial game, 17-13, led by the veteran Jim Plunkett. Tom Landry waves goodbye to Flores. Hopefully for Cowboy fans, isn't waving goodbye to the NFC East.
The 1986 Indianapolis 500 champion, Bobby Rahal, winner of the fastest Indy in history. Continuing the winning tradition of Budweiser racing teams, Bobby took the checkered flag to win the Indianapolis 500. Racing fans, this Bud's for you.
How much longer till we get there?
Yards and 2 touchdowns. Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of the leaping Dokie Williams. There is the winning score as the Raiders beat Dallas 17-13. A rundown of all the scores on this, the 11th week of the NFL season. The Raiders deny a 5-5 look. They go home 6-4, winning 6 of their last 7. Check that, the 10th week of the season. The Jets have won 9 in a row. New England rallies at Indianapolis. The Bears, after a loss on Monday night, win at Tampa Bay. New Orleans on 2 field goals knocks off the first place Rams. Seattle loses its second. Kansas City is 7-3. And Houston, an upset over Cincinnati. The Redskins in a tie for first as they win at Green Bay.